Henry Frederick, Prince of Wales, the 19th of February 1594 to 6 November 1612, was the elder son of King James I and Anne of Denmark. His name derives from his grandfathers, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, and Frederick II of Denmark. Prince Henry was widely seen as a bright and promising heir to his father's thrones. However, at the age of 18, he predeceased to his father when he died of typhoid fever. His younger brother Charles succeeded him as heir apparent to the English, Irish and Scottish thrones. Early life edict. Henry was born at Stirling Castle, Scotland, and became Duke of Rothesay, Earl of Carrick, Baron of Renfrew, Lord of the Isles and Prince and Great Steward of Scotland automatically on his birth. His father placed him in the care of John Erskine, Earl of Mar, and out of the care of the boy's mother, because James worried that the mother's tendency toward Catholicism might affect the son. Although the child's removal caused enormous tension between Anne and James, Henry remained under the care of Mar's family until 1603, when James became King of England and his family moved south. Henry's baptism on 30 August 1594 was celebrated with complex theatrical entertainments written by poet William Fowler and a ceremony in a new chapel royal at Stirling, purpose-built by William Shaw. One of his tutors until he went to England was Sir George Lauder of the Bass, a privy councillor, described as the king's familiar counsellor, and he was also tutored in music by Alfonso Ferrabosco the Younger. Henry's tutor Adam Newton continued to serve the prince in England, and some Scottish servants from Stirling were retained, including poet David Murray. Training and personality edict. The king greatly preferred the role of schoolmaster to that of father, and he wrote texts for the schooling of his children. James directed that Henry's household should rather imitate a college than a court, or, as Sir Thomas Challoner wrote in 1607, His Highness's household was intended by the king for a courtly college or a collegiate court. He passionately engaged in such physical pursuits as hawking, hunting, jousting and fencing, and from a young age studied naval and military affairs and national issues, about which he often disagreed with his father. He also disapproved of the way his father conducted the royal court, disliked Robert Carr, a favourite of his father, and esteemed Sir Walter Raleigh, wishing him to be released from the Tower of London. The prince's popularity rose so high that it threatened his father. Relations between the two could be tense, and on occasion surfaced in public. At one point, the two were hunting near Royston when James criticized his son for lacking enthusiasm for the chase, and Henry initially moved to strike his father with a cane, but rode off. Most of the hunting party then followed the son, upright to the point of priggishness. He fined all who swore in his presence. According to Charles Carleton, a biographer of Charles I, who describes Henry as an obdurate Protestant, in addition to the alms box to which Henry forced swearers to contribute, he made sure his household attended church services. His religious views were influenced by the clerics in his household, who came largely from a tradition of politicized Calvinism. Henry listened humbly, attentively, and regularly to the sermons preached to his household, and once told his chaplain, Richard Milbourne, that he esteemed most the preachers whose attitude suggested, "Sir, you must hear me diligently. You must have a care to observe what I say." Quote, Henry is said to have disliked his younger brother, Charles, and to have teased him, although this derives from only one anecdote. When Charles was 9 years of age, Henry snatched the hat off a bishop and put it on the younger child's head, then told his younger brother that when he became king he would make Charles Archbishop of Canterbury, and then Charles would have a long robe to hide his ugly rickety legs. Charles stamped on the cap and had to be dragged off in tears. investiture and leadership at it. With his father's accession to the throne of England in 1603, Henry at once became Duke of Cornwall. In 1610 he was further invested as Prince of Wales and Earl of Chester, thus for the first time uniting the 6 automatic and 2 traditional Scottish and English titles, held by heirs apparent to the 2 thrones. As a young man, Henry showed great promise and was beginning to be active in leadership matters. Among his activities, he was responsible for the reassignment of Sir Thomas Dale to the Virginia Company of London's struggling colony in North America. The Irish Gaelic Lord of Inishowen, Sir Ceir O'Doherty, had applied to gain a position as a courtier in the household of Henry, to help him in his struggles against officials in Ireland. Unknown to Sir Ceir, on the 19th of April 1608, the day he launched O'Doherty's rebellion by burning Derry, his application was approved. Henry took an interest in the Kingdom of Ireland and was known to be supportive of the idea of a reconciliation with the former rebel Hugh O'Neill, Earl of Tyrone, who had fled into exile during the flight of the Earls. Because of this, Tyrone and his entourage mourned when the prince met his early death. Henry died from typhoid fever at the age of 18. The diagnosis can be made with reasonable certainty from written records of the post-mortem examination. Although at the time there were rumors of poisoning, he was buried in Westminster Abbey. Prince Henry's death was widely regarded as a tragedy for the nation. According to Charles Carleton, few heirs to the English throne have been as widely and deeply mourned as Prince Henry. His body lay in state at St. James's Palace for 4 weeks. On the 7th of December, over 1,000 people walked in the mile-long cortege to Westminster Abbey to hear a 2-hour sermon delivered by George Abbot, the Archbishop of Canterbury. As Henry's body was lowered into the ground, his chief servants broke their staves of office at the grave. An insane man ran naked through the mourners, yelling that he was the boy's ghost. Immediately after Henry's death, the prince's brother Charles fell ill, but he was the chief mourner at the funeral, which King James, who detested funerals, refused to attend. All of Henry's automatic titles passed to Charles, who until then had lived in Henry's shadow. 4 years later, Charles was created Prince of Wales and Earl of Chester. Literature and music occasioned by the prince's death. Sermons. Henry's chaplain, Dr. Daniel Price, delivered a series of sermons about the young man's death. Price borrowed from John Donne's Unrelated The First Anniversary, published in 1611, and The Second Anniversary, published in 1612, for some of his language and ideas. Lamentations for the death of the late illustrious Prince Henry. 2 sermons. 1613. See 1613 in literature. Oh, why is there not a general thaw throughout all mankind? Why in this debashed air do not all things expire? Seeing time looks upon us with watery dishevelled locks, and heavy dismal looks. Now that the sun is gone out of our firmament, the IOI, the booty, the glory of Israel is departed. Quote, spiritual odours to the memory of Prince Henry. In 4 of the last sermons preached in St. James after His Highness' death. Oxford, 1613. See 1613 in literature. From Meditations of Consolation in Our Lamentations. Quote, his body was so fair and strong that a soul might have been pleased to live and age in it. Virtue and valor, beauty and chastity, arms and arts, met and kissed in him, and his goodness lent so much mintage to other princes, that if Xenophon were now to describe a prince, Prince Henry had been his pattern. He hath gone his Passover from death to life, where there is more grace and more capacity, where earthly bodies shall be more celestial than man in his innocency or angels in their glory, for they could fall. He is there with those patriarchs that have expected Christ on earth longer than they have enjoyed him in heaven. He is with those holy penmen of the Holy Spirit. They be now his paterns, who were here his teachers. Quote, Tears shared over Abner. The sermon preached on the Sunday before the prince, his funeral in St. James Chapel before the body. Oxford, 1613. See 1613 in literature. He is dead. Hugh, while he lived, was a perpetual paradise. Every season that he showed himself in a perpetual spring. Every exercise wherein he was seen a special felicity. He is dead before us. He is dead. That blessed model of heaven, his face is covered till the latter day, whose shining lamps his eyes, in whose light there was life to the beholders. They be eclipsed until the sun give over shining. He is dead. And now ye see this. Quote, Prose Memorial Sadat. Price also wrote 2 prose anniversaries on the death. Prince Henry, his first anniversary. Oxford, 1613. See 1613 in literature. In him, a glimmering light of the golden times appear. All lines of expectation met in this centre. All spirits of virtue, scattered into others, were extracted into him. Quote, Another anniversary, published in 1614. Verses adat. Within a few months of the prince's death, at least 32 poets had versified on it. In addition to those listed below, the writers included Sir Walter Raleigh, a friend, John Donne, Edward Herbert, Thomas Hayward and Henry King. These poems were published in 1612. See 1612 in poetry. Sir William Alexander, an elegy on the death of Prince Henry. Joshua Sylvester, Lacrimae Lacrimarum, or the distillation of tears shed for the untimely death of the incomparable Prince Panaritus, also includes poems in English, French, Latin and Italian by Walter Quinn, George Wither, Prince Henri's Obsequies, or mournful elegies upon his death. These poems and songs were published in 1613. See 1613 in poetry. Thomas Campion, Songs of Mourning, bewailing the untimely death of Prince Henry. Verse and music. Music by Giovanni Copario, or Copario, said to have been John Cooper, an Englishman. George Chapman, an episode, a funeral song, on the most disastrous death of the high-born Prince of Men, Henry Prince of Wales. And c. The work states 1612 but was published in 1613. John Davies, The Muses' Tears for the Loss of Their Hope. William Drummond of Hawthornden, Tears on the Death of Meliades. Music edit. In addition to the above verse setting by Copario, both Thomas Tomkins and Thomas Weelkes composed settings of When David Heard, a biblical passage in which King David laments the loss of his son Absalom in battle. It is thought that both settings were directly inspired by the death of the prince. The Oxford Dictionary of National Biography refers to a mourning song in memory of Prince Henry by John Ward remaining unpublished during the composer's lifetime. However, a newly composed song on the same subject was included in his first set of madrigals. 1613. Legacy edit. Both Prince Henry's Grammar School in Otley, West Yorkshire, and Prince Henry's High School in Evesham, Worcestershire in England are named after him. A road near Charlton House in London, home to his tutor Sir Adam Newton and finished just before he died, is named Prince Henry Road after him. The developments in North America were at an important stage as Henry grew up in the southern portion of the colony of Virginia. 3 important locations were named in his honor. Cape Henry, the southern point at which the Chesapeake Bay meets the Atlantic Ocean, was named on 26 April 1607. By the expedition led by Christopher Newport, which established Jamestown on 14 May. Cape Henry Memorial is now located at the city of Virginia Beach adjacent to First Landing State Park. Henricus, the ill-fated successor colony to Jamestown, was established in 1612 by Sir Thomas Dale, who had been recruited for the Virginia colony through the efforts of Prince Henry. Henricus became the major point of Henrico-Chitty. In 1619, it was destroyed during the Indian Massacre of 1622. The long-lost site of Henricus was rediscovered in the late 20th century in Chesterfield County, and is now part of a historical park. Present-day Henrico County was established by order of Henry's younger brother, King Charles I, in 1634, as one of the original 8 shires of Virginia. Henrico County remains extant today in its original political form. Ancestry. Titles, styles, honors in arms. Title. The 19th of February 1594 to 6 November 1612. The Duke of Rothesay, Earl of Carrick, Lord of the Isles. The 24th of March 1603 to 6 November 1612. The Duke of Cornwall. The 4th of June 1610 to 6 November 1612. The Prince of Wales, Earl of Chester. Honored. K.G. Knight of the Garter. The 14th of June 1603 to 6 November 1612. Arms. As Prince of Wales, Henry Frederick bore the arms of the kingdom. Difference by a label argent of 3 points. See also Stuart monarchy. Charles I. Anne of Denmark. Virginia Beach. Princess Anne County. Bibliography.